friends, today I'm going to tell you a story about a widow, a kind, compassionate, and beautiful lady doctor who wasn't just beautiful in appearance but had a heart of gold. She was deeply empathetic, always helping the poor and never turning anyone away. She had publicly declared in her neighborhood that if any poor person ever asked her for something, she would never refuse. This became well known. Anyone who asked for help never went back empty-handed. She would give clothes, money, shoes, whatever she could. She would help. But then, one day, a beggar took advantage of her kindness. At first, he would come daily just to ask for money. But then his intentions changed. He was sure that the lady doctor never refused anyone. So one day, he asked for something so shocking that even the doctor was left speechless. Bound by the kindness of her heart, she couldn't say no, and the beggar took full advantage, gaining what he had dreamed of for years. Let me tell you this shocking true incident from Rajpur, a city in the Sindh province of Pakistan, a city where the Hindu community has lived for generations, peacefully preserving their traditions, worship, and dignity. In this very city lived a Hindu lady doctor named Dr. Pritika Sharma. She was a cardiologist and widely respected not just as a skilled physician, but also for her gentle nature and kindness. Her husband, Rahul Sharma, had died in a mysterious incident 2 years prior. Since his death, Dr. Pritika buried her emotions in silence and dedicated herself to worship and serving humanity. Every morning at 7 a.m., she would visit the ancient Shankar temple, located in the heart of the city. A temple always filled with devotees and the echo of bells, offering a spiritual atmosphere. At the entrance of this temple, there sat a beggar every day. His face dark with dust, clothes torn and filthy, eyes deep as if hiding years of sorrow. He would ask something from every passerby but always kept his gaze fixed on the temple's inner door, as though waiting for someone. Every day, when Pritika finished her prayers and left, she would give him some money, a ritual she never missed. The beggar never said anything, never looked up. He would simply bow with folded hands, and Pritika, who wasn't in the habit of talking much to strangers, would give a faint smile, then left for the hospital. Outwardly, Dr. Pritika lived a successful and respectable life. She owned a clinic, had status in society, and a house of her own. But the sorrow buried deep within her heart, the loneliness, the absence of her husband, only she knew. That pain, she would silently share with God every day, sitting on the temple steps. One day, dark clouds gathered in the sky and a light drizzle began. As always, she went to the temple. After completing her prayers, when she reached to give money to the beggar, he spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and soft, but his words were piercing. "Madam, will you marry me?" Pritika froze. She looked at the beggar closely. His face bore no signs of a joke, sarcasm, or insanity. What kind of question was this? Was he mad? Or was this an expression of some deep desperation? She chuckled lightly and replied, "You really say the oddest things. Here, take the money and shelter from the rain." But the beggar refused the money this time. He looked her in the eyes and silently bowed his head. Pritika returned to the hospital, but the incident kept running through her mind. Is this man really just a beggar? Why do his eyes remind me of Rahul? That night, she told herself, maybe I'm overthinking. After all, he's just a beggar. But the next day, when she again tried to give him money, he folded his hands and refused. Instead, he said, "Madam, let me do something for you. Just give me one chance." Pritika was annoyed. "Look, I help you. That doesn't give you the right to say whatever you want. Stay in your place." But the beggar didn't lower his eyes. He softly said, "I know you think I'm crazy, but listen to me. I can do something for you that perhaps no one else can." There was such confidence in his voice that Pritika paused. This man who usually sat silently was now speaking with conviction. There was something about his tone, a strange trust. She looked at him closely and gently asked, "All right, tell me, what can you do?" He replied, "There's a big drug-dealing gang operating in this city. I can tell you where they are." Pritika was stunned. A beggar, and such insider information? She thought it might be a joke, but as a doctor, she had learned not to dismiss things too quickly. She asked for details. The beggar explained that the previous night, He had seen a group of people in an old warehouse near the temple discussing a major drug deal. He remembered their faces and the location. Pritika didn't take it too seriously, but still mentioned it to one of her old patients, say Inspector Kumar. The next day, the inspector returned with astonishing news. "Doctor, we raided the warehouse you mentioned, and indeed a large drug gang was caught. A huge amount of narcotics has been seized." Pritika was shocked. How could this beggar know all this? She decided to confront him directly. The next morning, she went to the temple. He was sitting there as always. She walked up and asked gently, "How did you know all that? Who are you really? Tell me the truth." He smiled and said, "Madam, I am who I appear to be, but I know this city better than most, perhaps even better than you." There was a hidden mystery in his words that left her puzzled. In the days that followed, he continued to provide her with accurate information about various crimes around the city. Every time, his information turned out to be true. Pritika no longer saw him as an ordinary beggar. She was convinced there was a deeper secret behind him. But she also knew that pressing too hard might cause him to withdraw, so she decided to be patient. A silent connection developed, not of charity or sympathy, but something deeper. Pritika no longer gave him money. Instead, she would sit and talk with him. Sometimes, he would say things that reminded her of Rahul. One day he said, "Madam, do you remember telling someone that there's nothing like sipping tea on the temple steps?" Pritika was stunned. That was something she had only ever said to Rahul. No one else knew that. She composed herself and brushed it off with a smile, but her heart was full of questions. One rainy night, she was returning from the hospital. The rain was pouring, and the streets were deserted. Suddenly, her car stalled. She panicked and no one was around. But then, as if out of nowhere, the beggar appeared. As if he knew she would be there, he checked the car and got it running in moments. Then he softly said, "Madam, don't go out alone at this hour. This city isn't as simple as it seems." His voice was full of concern and pain. That night, Pritika invited him to her home. At first, he refused, but on her insistence, he agreed. They sat at the dining table. He took a bite of food and softly said, "This food, this taste, reminds me of old memories." When she returned home in the evening, she found Shyam sitting outside the house. He was almost unrecognizably. His face looked tired, his clothes were filthy, and his body was covered in dust. Pritika asked angrily, "Where were you?" "I searched the entire city for you." Shyam lowered his eyes and replied in a soft voice, "Madam G, I had some important work." "Don't worry, everything is fine now." Pritika decided not to confront him directly. Instead, she gently asked, "Shyam, do you know this pharma company?" For a moment, Shyam looked into her eyes, then dropped his gaze and said, "Madam G, who in the city doesn't know them? They're very powerful." Were those just words, or a glimpse of some harsh truth? Pritika felt that Shyam was hiding something, and whatever it was definitely related to Rahul. A few days later, Pritika tried to obtain the complete report on the warehouse fire. She discovered it was no accident. It was arson, and the man seen near the area before the fire resembled the man in the photo. He looked like Rahul. Inspector Kumar arranged for surveillance on Shyam. He reported that Shyam visited the temple every day, but at night he would hide near an old ruin and meet with some suspicious people. Pritika visited the ruin herself and found old documents and details about illegal contracts, black market dealings, and the inner workings of the pharma company. But the most shocking thing was an old letter buried under the pile. It was covered in dust. When Pritika opened it, only one sentence was written: "Rahul, you must hide the truth." Her hands trembled. Was Rahul truly alive, or was this part of a larger conspiracy? She debated whether to confront the pharma company owner directly or first uncover the truth from Shyam. That night, she invited Shyam to her house. When he entered the room, Pritika placed the photo found in the warehouse in front of him. Her tone turned stern. "This is you, Shyam? Tell the truth. Who are you really?" Shyam looked closely at the picture, and a strange glint appeared in his eyes. He replied softly, "Madam G, some answers only time can give. But I promise, I will never harm you." Pritika became furious. "Shyam, I'm a doctor. I have every right to know the truth. If you don't speak now, I'll call the police." Shyam smiled and nodded. "If you hand me over to the police, you'll never learn the truth about Rahul." A moment of silence filled Pritika's heart. Then Shyam leaned forward and gave her an address of the basement of the pharma company's main office. He said a secret room there held all the illegal evidence. Pritika immediately informed her friend, Inspector Kumar. That night, the police raided the building. What they found was shocking: large quantities of narcotic drugs, records of black money, fake documents, and one name repeated throughout the papers: Rahul Sharma. Several key employees of the pharma company were arrested, but Pritika's suspicion remained. Shyam had become more mysterious. He would disappear overnight and return in the morning as if nothing had happened. There was no fear in his eyes anymore, only a strange calmness, like he had found the answer to a deep question. One day, Pritika decided to speak to Shyam again, but this time, she didn't ask, she just observed. Shyam sat silently, with a peculiar peace on his face. That day, Pritika called Ravi Singh. "When will the DNA test results come?" "In 2 days," he replied. "But if that man is who you suspect he is, everything will change." Pritika's heart pounded. That night, she received a call from an unknown number. A heavy, muffled voice spoke, "Dr. Pritika, you've become too clever, but getting close to the truth comes at a price. Leave Shyam, or face the consequences." The call ended. Pritika's fingers trembled. It was all true. Shyam wasn't just a wandering fakir, he was part of something much bigger. But now, there was no turning back. She had to uncover Shyam's strata no matter what. She knew that every night, he went into dark alleys from the temple toward the ruins. There he met people who were never seen during the day. She decided to follow him. She called Inspector Kumar and made a plan. "I won't stop now. Whatever the truth is, I'll face it." Everything about Shyam, his actions, his silence, his intense gaze, was leading toward a bigger revelation. But what Pritika didn't yet know was that Shyam was none other than her husband, Rahul Sharma. 2 years ago, Rahul had reportedly died in a road accident. But that was a cover-up. Rahul, a software engineer, used to work for the same pharma company Shyam was speaking against. He had discovered their involvement in illegal drug trade, money laundering, and black market activities. He decided to expose them. But the company's owner, Raghav Malhotra, plotted to eliminate him. Rahul barely survived and had to fake his death to stay alive. He went underground and took on the identity of Shyama, a wandering sage. Sitting outside the temple, silently watching everything, and catching a glimpse of Pritika each day became his new life. He knew that revealing himself would put both him and Pritika in danger. So, step by step, as Shyam, he began shaking the foundations of the pharma company's criminal empire, with Pritika unknowingly helping him. One night, Pritika and Inspector Kumar followed Shyam. As usual, he left the temple and entered the city's narrow lanes, frequently looking back as if sensing someone following him. After some time, he stopped near a burnt warehouse, the same warehouse that had caught fire weeks ago. Pritika's heart raced. Was this the place where Rahul's photo was found? Had Shyam come to find something important? Kumar signaled Pritika to sneak behind the warehouse. There, another monotol, thin, with a thick beard, was speaking to Shyam in hushed tones. The words weren't clear, but the man handed Shyam a small packet before vanishing into the alleys. Kumar whispered, "We need to check that packet. It could be evidence." But Pritika's eyes were fixed on Shyam. He went inside the warehouse and sat in the darkness. When they followed him in, the air was filled with the smell of burnt wood and chemicals. In one corner, Shyam sat at an old table, examining documents. He opened the packet up. It contained some photos and a USB drive. Pritika and Kumar watched from a distance. Suddenly, Shyam burned the photos. Pritika was shocked. Was he destroying evidence, or hiding something deeper? Kumar whispered, "Let's not confront him now. He may be part of a larger network. We need more proof." Pritika nodded, but her heart was tangled in emotions. Every move of Shyam, every silence, every expression reminded her of Rahul. She knew the time was near when the full truth would be revealed. The next morning, she tried to speak casually with Shyam, but he remained silent as always. He had breakfast quietly and went to his room as if nothing had happened. But now, Shyam's mysterious silence was starting to haunt Pritika. A broken bar,